Hello everyone, welcome to Köhler's 25th and last etude of the Romantic Etudes book. This one is very exciting. I would say it's actually the most exciting out of Köhler's 25 Romantic Etudes, and I'm very excited that we made it all the way to the end together. If you haven't watched any of the other etudes from this book, they're all on my channel. We've done all of them together, and I've taught all of them as well, just like I'm going to teach this etude to you right now. I think of this etude as a sort of showy, really energetic, fast-paced etude. It's important to acknowledge that it's written allegro vivo and that it's in 2/4, because these two things signal to us this is going to be fast and it's going to be exciting. The challenging thing about this etude is the key signature. As you can see, it's actually in E major, which is not a very friendly key for the flute, but once you get it under your fingers, it can be very exciting. If you're not very familiar with playing in E major, I would really recommend practicing your scales and arpeggios in E major before attempting this etude. Something also really crucial about this etude is the dynamics. He actually put a lot of work into writing dynamics in specific places in this etude, and I would even say specific places that are going to be even more challenging to play in that specific octave. We can see that starting around bar 8 into bar 9, we actually have piano, but in the high register. And we have these octave leaps, actually, in bar 11 that are still in the piano dynamic, which is going to be really, really challenging, especially starting on this F sharp. So the key about this is to acknowledge that they are going to be in different places in our mouth, but limiting the amount of movement that we have to do up here is really going to benefit us because we don't have the time to really stretch between these two notes. We're playing this in allegro vivo, in 2/4, so we don't have the time to really switch between these two octaves. I like to do a little bit of a taper on each one of these. Really, the important note is the F sharp and then the E natural. The high F sharps, not too important, and if you play them as written, it might sound pretty obnoxious, like this. And we don't want that because the F sharps are really not that important. So you have to do this sort of decrescendo maybe on each of these beats. So practicing this away from the actual music and just going between these two notes, but also trying to taper it off will be really beneficial to your practice. With saying that, it's also important to note you don't want to clip these notes off. They still need to be heard and they still need to be resonant. To actually give them a little bit of resonance, I actually like to add a little bit of vibrato while I'm tapering it off. Again, this adds another step of difficulty, but if you can really pull this off, it's going to be extremely convincing to the audience or whoever is listening to this etude. If you want exercises to practice these large intervals more without changing the dynamic level, I would highly recommend Philippe Bernaud's Technique of the Embouchure book, and specifically book 2 is going to be all about large intervals and keeping the same sound quality and dynamic level when switching octaves. So I'll leave a link to that in the description below if you would like to check out his book on changing octaves. And the rest of the book is just honestly very useful. It's all about the embouchure, all about the changes that you need to make in your body to maintain a homogeneous sound throughout the flute. So going into this andantino section, it's very important to have a different sort of idea from the rest of the piece. Not only is it in a different key signature, it's in A minor now, but it's a less technical aspect of the piece. I think it's a more lyrical, flowing idea. So I like to have a more connected sound between each of the notes and like to really over-romanticize this. After all, they are Köhler's romantic etudes. So digging into a darker, more abrasive sound maybe might be a better idea in this section. Whereas before we're kind of in the high register and we're playing in a major key, it's going to be a lighter, maybe brighter and sweeter sound. This is our chance to be dark and a little bit aggressive, but not too over the top. To do this and to accomplish this sort of sound quality, you might want to watch my video on how to play the low notes loudly. I'll leave a link in the description to that if you would like to watch that video, but I talk a lot about mainly focusing the air more down into the flute instead of pointing it forward like we might be for the middle register. For the lower register, we want to, especially for a darker sound, get the air to go more down into the hole. It might be useful to try to direct your top lip up and over the hole more, not by turning it in or by squeezing anything here. That's just going to restrict your sound on the flute. You want to try to get your top lip to actually do the work by directing the air more down into the hole. This is going to give you a really dark, resonant sound. And as you can see there, I actually added in a little bit of a slide, maybe a jazzy element that might be a little over-romanticized, but hey, it's an etude and we're having fun here, so do what you wish. When we go into this ending, I mentioned this actually in the previous etude, but a lot of Köhler's endings for these romantic etudes are kind of jokes, and this one is really a joke. So we actually don't end on the first beat of the measure. We end on the second beat of the measure. You might be, whoa, this is crazy. It's not that crazy, but it actually can be very exciting if we pull it off correctly. So it's important to acknowledge it's not a pickup. We don't want to go ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum. They're actually both accented, so they're both equally as important. Leaning into this idea that it's a sort of joke when you're going into this section, you want to trick the audience a little bit into thinking that you're going to end on the downbeat, but you're not. So I like to do a little bit of a pause, maybe just a little hair longer than the quarter note rest that's written there. That's really going to give people this sort of suspense that they want, because it sounds like it should end before that, but it doesn't, and that's the surprise, and that's what makes this fun. Of course, these grace notes that you're going to be dealing with in these penultimate measures are going to be a little bit tricky on your fingers, but what's important to acknowledge is that the actual downbeats are all E's. So we're really tonicizing E here, and these E's should be louder than the grace notes and offbeats that we have, even though these notes are changing and they are going to be more challenging on our fingers. Once you get that under your fingers, once you practice it enough with a metronome, you need to be focusing on the E's, not so much the other notes. And what I'm talking about basically is just don't play like this, because those are not important. It's actually the E's that are important. And you can hear that sort of difference there. And that's going to take less strain from your fingers trying to get these grace notes all perfect. After all, it is a joke. Don't try so hard to get them all perfect. This isn't Mozart. It's a joke ending in a Köhler romantic etude. But of course, strive for as much accuracy as you possibly can. Anyways, I hope that this video really helped you on your journey of learning Köhler's romantic etudes, and specifically the 25th etude. If you are playing any of the other etudes and you haven't seen my other videos on those, please watch those. They're all in a playlist that I'll link below, and I've taught every single one just like this to you, so if you are struggling with any of the other ones, it's all there, free and easy to access on YouTube. If you have anything else that you're playing, or you just want to work with me specifically on something, I am teaching lessons online on my website. You can go to devynflute.com and book a lesson anytime that works for you and me. It'll all be there. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I see you in the next one. Goodbye.